I'm Heidi Otway, your host for this Conversations on Cannabis virtual forum brought to you by the Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative at Florida A&M University. In this conversation, we're talking about juvenile drug courts in Florida and how they're helping teens caught with marijuana get a second chance. So let's talk and learn about this subject with our guest. Stephen Willis serves as the Juvenile Delinquency Court Manager for Polk County. He works in the Teen Court Diversion Program, which is designed to help youth offenders stay out of the criminal justice system. Stephen, welcome to the forum. Tell us more about yourself.
Hi, good morning, Heidi. Thank you so much for inviting me to this discussion panel today. As mentioned, I am with Polk County Court Administration in the 10th Circuit. I've been with the courts for 28 years, so almost as old as I am. I've been in the court system. One thing that I really do enjoy has been my tenure with the Polk County Teen Court Diversion Program. I've been with our teen court program for approximately 17 years. In the last 5 years, I've served as the manager for that. I also serve on the Florida Association of Teen Courts board, and the last 2 years, I've served as the president for that board. So as you said, it's kind of one of those self-fulfilling jobs that being able to take a young youthful offender out of their mistake and help put them back on the right path, that's always a good feeling. So thank you
Yeah,
once again for having us here.
yeah. I'm so looking forward to our conversation. And to everyone watching, please share the link to this forum on your social media channels so others can learn about this topic. We also want you to tell us what you think about this forum by completing the survey that will be posted on Mary's social media pages. Your name will be entered into a drawing in January 2025 to win a $100 gift card provided by one of Mary's partners. Now, let's start this conversation on cannabis. So, Stephen, you kind of gave us an overview in your introduction about the teen court system, but can you really dig in and tell us what is the teen court and what is its purpose and how does it work in Florida?
Teen court is what I would call one of Florida's best kept secrets, and it's actually statewide. Teen court is, as I said earlier, it's a diversion program where juvenile youthful offenders, they have an opportunity to resolve their case non-judicially. And I call it a win-win because not only is the youthful offender given the opportunity to have that case resolved so that it doesn't have that permanent record. In Polk County, we also have an additional caveat bonus that if the child resolves their case in teen court, it's not even filed with the state attorney's office nor with the clerk of court. So it's not on their database either.
Wow.
The flip side of that is we use high school volunteers, high school students who volunteer. 9th through 12th grade is our limit that doesn't have any negative background checks, so they pass the background check. They're also in good standings with their school. We don't require honor roll students, but we want them to be at least passing so that way we're not interfering with their studies. So high school students volunteer, and they're the attorneys, they're the bailiffs, they're the jurors in the courtroom. They actually fulfill every role in that courtroom except for the judge. We require someone with a law degree to preside over the cases. So many times our judges do volunteer. It could be one of the private attorneys, defense attorneys, or it could be a public defender, sometimes volunteers. And then that student body that are the jurors are the ones who actually sentence and sanction the youthful offender's case.
Wow.
And as long as the youthful offender successfully completes all of that, then like I said earlier, their record is never filed or their charges are never filed with the court system. And so we offer volunteer hours for the volunteer community service hours for the volunteers. And once the youthful offender is sanctioned, one of the requirements we have is that they come back and serve as a juror. So now that youthful offender has the opportunity to have a positive impact into the life of someone else. And a lot of times that's just enough of the carrot dangled in front of them that they want to come back and be a part of our teen court program. And so we call it the restorative justice component built into the program. And so then they are able to earn those volunteer community service hours in which they can use for the Florida Vocational Gold Seal, the Bright Future scholarships, or any other scholarships that they apply for. We have such a great pool of volunteers that a lot of times some of the other agencies within the courthouse, they'll reach out to us to see if we have any students who are looking for a student position or a part-time summer position, and
Mm-hmm.
reach out to us first and use our students for those. So we've been able to help several students with that. Also with college entrances, we write recommendation letters, and so we have a great success and turnaround with that. I do like to point out that we have what I would consider one of the best success rates. We have a 99% success rate, recidivism.
Mm-hmm.
We track that youthful offender for 2 years, and after 2 years, we have seen that they are not convicted. 99% are not convicted of a second
Wow.
offense, and we took it down a little bit more to see if they even reoffended, and we still
Mhm.
have a 90%, a 95% success rate. That 95% of the youthful offenders do not even reoffend a second time after successful completion of our program. So.
Wow, that is remarkable and fascinating. I've seen here in Tallahassee, I've gone to teen court and observed a little bit of it, and I thought it was really remarkable how the teens are so mature and thoughtful and compassionate, when they're in this process. So kudos to you and the other folks who work in the teen court systems here in Florida.
Thank you.
So let's kind of shift to talk about um, what happens if a teen comes in who's been caught with marijuana, right? And in your experience, can you provide a little bit of insights on the current laws and penalties that youth experience and how that's changed over the years? And then we'll kind of segue into what happens when a teen shows up in teen court because they were caught with marijuana.
Sure. Heidi, one of the things that teen court in Polk County, and every county has their own set of rules.
Right.
In Polk County, we do take just about all drug related offenses.
Hmm.
And one of the things that we see is an increase in the marijuana, the THC vape pens, which in Florida is a felony charge.
Mm.
And so we are fortunate enough to help that youthful offender with that. And the way the process works is typically it's either an arrest or a non-arrest, but the law enforcement agency that creates the affidavit will direct file that. So the affidavit travels pretty much from the officer's hand to our office.
Oh.
And if it is an arrest, then they still are processed at the Juvenile Assessment Center. And then
Mm.
upon release, that affidavit is forwarded directly to us. So once again, it bypasses the clerk of court, it bypasses the state attorney's office. And
Mhm.
then once we set up an appointment with the youthful offender and their family. And then once that appointment is set, then we meet with them and we discuss their options, and we go from there.
Wow. So we just had a whole show on this forum talking about the increase in teens vaping and using, common devices that look like USBs or hoods or even water bottles that have the vape in it. Is this some, I don't know if you could talk about the cases that you're seeing and hearing, but is it some of that type of, this is how that individual was caught using the cannabis?
I haven't seen some of the newer gadgets, I guess you could say, but
Yeah,
I've seen
gadgets.
the traditional ones where, and we don't actually confiscate the
Right.
device itself, the officer
Yeah.
does.
Uh-huh.
But overall, when I so as I mentioned already, 17 years, it was always the what I call the street marijuana, where it was the bags, and now it has advanced to the newer styles of ingesting. Um, I haven't seen any of the hoods or the water bottles, but the USB looking devices and the stick, what they call, I think, a stick pin. I've
Yeah.
seen those, the increase in that.
Yeah. And from your perspective, are you hearing how, this is illegal, as you mentioned. Have you heard how these youth are getting access to these devices?
I have, unfortunately, just like any other medication that parents have, sometimes we get lax, we leave it here, we leave it there,
Yeah.
and then our children will, have access to it. And a lot of times the children are taking their parents' uh,
Oh,
vape pens,
mhm.
and and then they'll take it to school, and then they want to share it with their friend, or hey, or they'll, we don't see much of it being sold. It's mainly teenagers. Hey, here's my friend. I want my friend to have a little taste of this, or
Oh,
try
wow.
this new style. Um, and that's unfortunate because then the parent is without their medication,
Hmm.
and then then it also looks like an irresponsibility, and sometimes it's what we call everybody makes a mistake, and it's we have to
Yeah.
learn from those mistakes. So it's just educating and re-educating people to be responsible.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. And to parents who may not even, recognize it, I'm sure you engage parents in the teen court system. Is that correct?
I do. Yeah, most of the times the parents are caught off guard, even because sometimes it's the child who I see that does not have a parent that uses THC for any reason. And
Hmm.
so what we do is we engage that conversation, and part of it was, did you know that your child was smoking? And a lot of times it's like, didn't know for sure. I was curious. I was suspicious. I had noticed a few things, changing, and
Hmm.
just, a lot of times parents are afraid to know the truth, and
Yeah.
sometimes they're, embarrassed to really confront that, or they just don't have the energy, as I call it, the emotional energy to have that conversation and to develop a plan and what's going to happen if I learn that my
Hmm.
child is using illegal substances.
Yeah. Now, does the teen court provide resources for families in that
Yes,
regard?
absolutely. I'm very fortunate. Like I said earlier, Polk County is probably the best. But within our circuit, within our court administration, we have a problem-solving court that actually has a juvenile section, its own juvenile section. So
Hmm.
I am able to send my clients, a youthful offender, directly from my office down to the floor that lab. We actually have a lab within the courthouse.
Oh,
So
wow.
the youthful offender will leave my office to go to the lab, and it's a supervised urinalysis. And
Hmm.
that's interesting because they're like, what? It's supervised? You mean like supervised? And I'm like, yes, because now your urine is evidence. And
Yeah.
that creates an acknowledgement of the seriousness of the case as well. That
Yeah.
it's not my byproduct, it is evidence. This is going to be used in court. And
Wow.
so we always tell them their first one is their free one. This is your one chance to have, uh, your test to be positive for the illegal substances, and it just sets
Hmm.
up accountability. And then if we feel like that they need more accountability as far as, okay, I'm not shocked enough or put in accountable enough to stop on my own, we do
Hmm.
have a mentorship program that they meet with the counselor once a month to identify triggers and other things in life. And then if that needs a little bit more, we actually put them in the full, what we call drug court, problem solving court, where they do meet with the judge and give an account to the judge as to the status of their case and how well they're progressing or not progressing. And then
Hmm.
we'll add additional sanctions to that. When I say sanctions, it's not necessarily always punishment, it's educational. Like, what are your goals? You write us an essay on how you think you want to complete this program. What is your goals, and how is continuing marijuana going to affect that goal? And
Hmm.
last, what we would do, what I would call the greatest or the highest level, we do have a partnership with the Juvenile Assessment Center and the Department of Juvenile Justice that we can
Okay.
refer
Good.
clients to for in-house residential treatment if necessary. And all of
Mhm.
that comes at no cost to the families.
Wow, that is amazing. And then are the families involved in this entire process? Are they getting services and support to help them, keep that young person on the road to recovery or the road to, a better outcome?
Heidi, to be very honest, I wish that parents were more involved with that because we
Mm,
do have the option for them to be involved.
yeah.
Some parents, for work purposes, they're not able to leave work to engage in those services. Uh,
Hmm.
and then there's a few parents that the attitude is, I didn't get in trouble, so I'm not going to provide my assistance. I've told my child, I've educated my child. You get in trouble, you got to get yourself out of trouble. And so
Mm.
it just depends on the dynamics of that home, and the parents' availability and desire. But yes, we do have options for them to be engaged if they
That's
choose to.
good. Yeah, that's good that they have that option. So, what is the age range of the teens that or juveniles that participate in the teen court? I mean, what's the youngest to what, 18? What's the age range there?
For the youthful offender, just as you said, juvenile. So anyone who commits the offense before their 18th birthday.
Okay.
On occasion,
And
we
what's
have.
the youngest? I mean, what's like
I
the
have
youngest?
had a 6-year-old. And of course, we handle that very differently. The 6-year-old
Yeah.
will not be treated the same way that the 17 and 3/4-year-old is, who was celebrating his 18th birthday before midnight. Because sometimes we have a 17-year-old that's celebrating early and
Mm,
commits an offense. Fortunately, the clock hasn't struck midnight yet, so they're technically
yeah.
17, so I can still take that case. Um, and sometimes, like the 5-year-old or the 6-year-old, we meet with them, we meet with the parents, we come up with a plan.
Mhm.
Usually the child is very remorseful and very uncomfortable being in a courtroom setting or even in the courthouse, because our offices are located within our courthouse. So coming in, they feel the reality of the seriousness of their case. So to
Yeah.
us, I look at that because I'm a parent, you know, my child is, obviously feeling this already. I don't think
Yeah.
he needs a jail tour, which we wouldn't do a jail tour for a 6-year-old anyway.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We do have minimal age requirements on a lot of things. So sometimes it is just us as court personnel sitting down with that 6-year-old and having the conversation and tell us
Yeah.
what you learned from this. Tell us what you could do better. How do you think mom feels? How do you think dad feels? And, and then just walking around a courtroom and a vacant courtroom and showing them the courtroom with their parent and just having them just ask questions as well, and then turn it into a positive as, you know, would you like to sit on the judge's bench and have your picture taken? Because
Yeah.
once again, law is law, but it's there to provide security and safety for everyone, and I don't want children to be afraid of that. So
Right, right. And has that approach helped with your success rate with, fewer young people coming back through the system?
I, yeah, I very seldom see that age group, and so
Yeah. But
through
I
my
mean across all ages, that approach that you take, that very caring, thoughtful, don't want to make this scary approach to
I do
them.
think so. I think that, because for me anyway, I will speak from my personal experience. Going into a courtroom at a young age, you sense, oh, this is serious. You have to come in, you have to go through security where they check, you had to take your belt off, you had to empty your pockets, and
Mhm.
then the elevator ride up, and then you see this massive courtroom, and it's like, oh
Mm.
wow, this is.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll ask the parent if we feel like things are going well and the child's comfortable. We'll say, would you want to sit on the stand and be, and
Yeah.
the parent will agree to that, and that let the child sit up there on the witness stand and I'll ask a few questions, and while they're sitting there, and I say, Mom, you want to ask your child anything, and just kind of giving that reality of, wow, this is where I would be sitting if I was going into a courtroom, kind of like that, like reality
Mhm.
shock type thing. And the parents appreciate that. And we get a lot of calls from just the community itself saying, hey, my son's or my daughter or my child's acting out at school. What can I do before it gets to a serious point. And
Right.
we will actually encourage the parent to, with some other resources that we have, make those available as a preventive measure as well.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about those preventative measures? Because if we have parents who are listening or caregivers who are listening, what should they be looking out for, and how would they access the teen court program in their community to kind of help them or guide them?
They can always contact me since I do serve as the liaison for all of the counties in the state of Florida. So
Okay,
they can reach
great.
out to me and I'll try to connect them to someone within their county. Or
Okay.
we are working on trying to create a national association. So at some point, hopefully take it bigger than Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But in Polk County, if the child is 12 years or older, we can give them a tour of the inside of the sheriff's office jail or the Polk County Sheriff's Office jail. It's not
Mm,
a scared straight what a lot of people saw on television. It's an
yeah.
educational tour. We call it a sight and sounds. It's
Mm,
cold. It's not doesn't have the best aroma,
mhm.
and this is your living. There's not any privacy. It's not like waking up in the middle of the night, going downstairs and opening up the refrigerator and taking a chug of milk out of the
Right.
jug. That's not going to happen. You're going to get up at 5 a.m., go to bed at 5 p.m.
Mm,
We also have some online courses, educational courses that we have a third-party vendor. Those courses do cost us. So if the child's not in actual charge with the crime and going through the course, we would have
mhm,
to charge a nominal fee for that. Uh,
mhm.
but we do open up the random drug testing option to parents where they can say, you know what, my child's not charged with the criminal offense, but I know that y'all have true testing and they're observed. Can I bring my child in for a test? And our lab will charge a very minimal fee just to cover the supplies for that.
Yeah.
And within a couple of hours can have the results back to the parent.
So
Uh,
tell me, what happens if the results come back positive?
That's just for the parent because
Really?
yeah, it'd be no different than that parent going to a private lab like, within the community like Quest or LabCorp and
Yeah.
getting that, but they know because sometimes the private labs use what we call the dipstick method where they just
Yeah.
dip into it and they're a lot of times are not necessarily supervised your analysis. And
Mhm,
parents just kind of want a little bit more integrity with that test to
mhm.
know that their child truly is or is not positive or not positive.
Yeah, and then let's say that, it comes back positive. Do you see parents coming back to you all to say, "Help, I
A
don't
lot
know
of
what
times
to
they
do
do
now."
because we were the initial one to set that up. So a lot of times, and then I'll say, well, this is what we're able to do.
Yeah.
And my advice is always be a proactive parent. you
Mhm.
know, be involved in the child's life. Make sure that they're involved in extracurricular activities. Getting involved with sports is a deterrent because if they're busy with something like that, a lot of times sports requires that drug testing as well. And the
Mhm.
child really enjoys playing basketball or baseball. They that's a reason for that child not to engage in the inappropriate behaviors or illegal substances or the extracurricular activities within the schools.
Yeah.
That positive role, positive peer pressure, get the child involved in something like that. And if you have to, be the tough parent when the child's not home, you don't want to have that engaging argument. Just search the bedroom, search that top drawer, search that backpack, pull the mattress up,
Mhm.
look under the carpet in the corner, those kinds of things. A lot of parents, they are scared to do that because of an argument. So I always say, well, they're not home the child's not home every day, all day.
Yeah.
So do it
Yeah.
when you feel like you have a little bit of a time frame.
Yeah, we've had a couple of shows where we have folks kinda say, if you do find, that your child is using marijuana, here's some things you could do. Could you offer maybe 2 or 3 things that if a parent does find that, a resource or a website or something that can help them have those tough conversations? Because 'Cause I'm gonna just do a plug for Mary and say, go to Medical Marijuana Florida A&M University's Mary website. They have an on-demand, program where parents can actually find teens and marijuana, and it actually provides resources to help you. So, Stephen, if you could provide some another resource that a parent could use, should they find that their kid is using marijuana,
Well,
what
there's
would you recommend?
absolutely within Polk County that we have Tri-County, what they call Tri-County Human Services, which are
Mhm.
it's a private entity there. We have Peace River Counseling Services. You also just check with your insurance company to see if there's counselors that are provided for that. A lot of times, insurance companies will allow, I think, 6 or 8 sessions, and if the counselor feels like the need for more, they can do that. The best thing always just be a parent. I'm a parent. Uh, know your child. Don't be afraid to have conversations with the child. And yes, if I just being real, if my child was using that, of course I would be upset. But also reassure the child, I'm here for you. And
Yeah,
home base is always a safe place, and
yeah,
we can talk about it. We'll get through it together. Tell me why, why. And a lot of times the child is going through other issues, and so they're using it to self-medicate or to mask another issue. So
yeah,
it's important to find the root cause of why am I using the medical marijuana or illegal marijuana? Why do I
right.
feel like I have to have this? And
Mhm.
the number one answer I think I hear on that when I ask the youth when they're in my office is, it just helps me calm down. It helps ease my stress. Uh,
Mhm.
and as a parent, sometimes we think stress, you don't have a mortgage payment, you don't have, the bills of life that we do, but,
Mhm.
they do have stress on their level, and stress is stress. And I think
Yeah,
sometimes we have to understand that and be a little bit understanding with our children that they do have stress and they do
right.
have other issues that are impacting them, and they're just trying to cope with life as well.
Yeah. Have there been any instances where a parent was charged or got in trouble because their child accessed cannabis or marijuana at all? Anytime?
I
Have you heard?
am not aware of that
Mm,
because on the teen court side, I don't see the actual delinquency court side.
sure.
I work closely with our delinquency courts, and I have
Mhm.
heard instances where the child would be actually in the courtroom, and a parent would be in a virtual setting, and the attorney would be representing with the child, and the parent would admit that it was their vape device.
Oh, wow.
I do not have the follow up to see if that parent was ever charged or not, though.
Well, the one thing that I hear loud and clear is that if adults are using medical marijuana legally, hide your medication from your kids.
Yeah,
That feels like the best advice we could give on the show today.
absolutely. Absolutely. Kids are curious a lot of
Yeah,
times, and
right.
if it's they see it as a safe response, to things because mom's doing it or dad's doing it or grandma's doing it, so it must be safe. And then when you hear it in the news, another thing they would say, well, it's almost legal. And I'd be like, but almost is still not good enough.
Exactly.
And so then
Yeah.
I use that as an educational pivot to go vote when you're old enough. If you don't like laws,
Mhm.
go vote.
Yeah. Stephen, this has been so informative, and I really appreciate your thoughtfulness. I can tell that you have a passion for the work that you do. As we wrap up, do you have any closing thoughts for our listeners and viewers?
I don't think so, Heidi. I think overall we've discussed a lot of things, and my heart really would say, first and foremost, be a parent, be a child, and enjoy each other in the phase of life that you're in. Because tomorrow the child may be 30, it seems like, and they're in a different role, and or the parents may be in an elderly role and they won't be as active. So just enjoy the moment with the family. Families are important. They're the core of who we are, and invest in our children. They're worth it.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, thank you for being our guest on this Conversations on Cannabis virtual forum brought to you by the Medical Marijuana Education and Research Initiative at Florida A&M University. Thank you to everyone watching this program. Tell us what you think about this forum by completing the survey posted in the comment boxes on Mary's social media pages after this program is posted. If you complete the survey, your name will be entered into a drawing in January 2025 to win a $100 gift card provided by one of Mary's partners. We also want to encourage you to go to the Florida Department of Health Office of Medical Marijuana Use website to learn how to obtain a legal medical marijuana card in the state of Florida. We also encourage you to go to Florida A&M University's Mary website to learn more about this initiative, its educational programs, and additional information about cannabis use in Florida. Thanks, everyone.